You are listening to Unequaled with Jaycee Carroll and Ajay Salveson. But first, our friends, the Painted Roses.
Another edition of Unequal. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for rating us 4.5 stars for the second highest rated podcast out of the other three that I've been looking at. 4.5. 4.5, Jaycee. It's not bad.
Who hasn't given us a 5? They need to send you a message or something.
We're 4.5 stars, Jaycee. That's our goal.
Oh, that's our goal?
Yes. Okay. It's always been our goal. 4.5 stars.
All right.
On a whole podcast.
We're achieving it.
Yes, we're getting there. We're getting there. Okay. How was your week, by the way? How are you?
It's been a good week. Busy. My new life takes me a wide different.
What's your new life?
Well, no, my retired life was since basketball. Basketball was very simple.
You retired for like 5 years.
It's been 3. Look, basketball life was a simple life. I woke up. I knew when I had practice. I knew when I had games. It was very organized and stuff like that. Now, I mean, my day yesterday took me to Salt Lake where I met with potential clients. And then it finished with me up with cattle and my daughter and a bunch of other people taking photos to try and make how our horses and cattle and stuff look.
Hey, can I ask, when you meet with a client, are you like, hey, I'm Jaycee Carroll, and you come to my house, you're going to see 50 photos on my wall of me.
Gosh.
And no, it's me. That's Jaycee.
Because the majority of people barely know who I am a lot of times.
Really?
So
because our guest knows who you are.
Well, that's why he's here.
That's why he's here, because he knows who you are.
No, but I get teased a lot. Sometimes I'll meet people from Cache Valley, and I'll say tongue in cheek, like, "Oh, you probably saw me play. Probably know who I am." And
has anyone ever said no?
Oh, yes, all the time. Like, I have no idea who that is.
I'm invited to your house for dinner up in your office.
No,
there's all the photos of you.
No, I was at a football game the other day. I won't say where, but
where.
But it's a game that people like to play with me. And they meet me from Cache Valley. They go, "Hey, what do you think of Jaycee Carroll?" And to
Sam Merrill was better than
see if they know who I am. And right now I'm losing that game. No one knows who I am.
But they know Sam Merrill. We are here at Spa Trouvé. What's the rest of it, though?
Top of Utah.
Yes. There we go. Spa Trouvé. You say top of Utah. That's how we do it. Great place. You guys now share ownership. Is that how?
Yeah. Yeah, we did a merger acquisition with Spa Trouvé, top of Utah, so it gave us instant credibility, a lot of history. This has been voted, Spa Trouvé has been voted best in Utah a bunch of years in a row. 13 years of experience, new services, new expertise, and we're going to have a kind of a new grand reopening. We're open, but grand reopening October 7th.
That's awesome.
But, yeah, really good things.
Awesome. There's September promos also in action right now.
All kinds of them.
I have no idea what these mean, but injections, that sounds absolutely brutal. Botox, never heard of it. $10, though, for a tox. Have you ever done a Botox? Is that like for guys, Botox?
Oh.
Have you gotten a Botox? You have.
I've had a few. It wears off, but
have you gotten
it offered free a couple times. Very minimal. You see my forehead still wrinkles, so...
Have you ever gotten a liquid facelift, which, by the way, is $400 off?
Holy cow. $400 off.
For a liquid facelift.
Have you signed up?
Love those. Oh, I don't even facelift it off, though. Hydrofacials is $50 off for skincare.
Hydrofacials are nice.
You've been taking care of your skin. You look fantastic.
Whoops. Thanks. I have had a facial. I've had one facial.
Another bit of side note about, again, Spa Trouvé, top of Utah. Appreciate them being a part of our podcast. It's September 11th today that we're recording. Mm-hmm. Wanted to ask you, where were you when you heard?
Yeah. I was out in a field, pounding T-posts without gloves for a seminary project. We were, for anyone that knows, we were doing a iron rod activity that night, and I was in charge of getting the iron rod set up. And I got my truck, and my first thought was, gosh, what kind of pilot got lost and crashed into a big building? And then we sat in PE that whole morning watching it on the news.
How old were you?
Senior in high school. My senior year.
So I was a sophomore. We were going to go and watch film for football. We had a game that week, and the news was on. And I kind of the same thought you did, like, oh, someone lost control of a plane and flew into a building. I didn't think anything of it. I was like, well, that's too bad, whatever. It didn't feel right, but I didn't think of the magnitude of what was going on at all until that afternoon.
Yeah.
Then it all hit.
Yeah.
It's still mind-boggling to think like when I saw the calendar today, I was like, oh my gosh, it's September 11th. It's 23 years since that day.
Yeah, it was impactful. Obviously, I mean, it took half a second to remember where I was and what I was doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's but Ajay, we have someone special here today that has that we want to hear a lot from him.
Yeah, we've had coaches and athletes, which are great, right, on this podcast, and are amazing. But we also have businessmen who are very successful, who are still diehard sports fans. This one comes from Cheese Nation in Green Bay, Wisconsin. CEO of Schreiber Foods, Ron Dunford, joins us here on Unequal today, and no cheese equals to Schreiber's cheese at all. So, Ron, thank you so much for joining us today. It's great to have you this morning.
Yeah, great to be here. Real pleasure.
Where were you on September? Do you remember that day?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just like Jaycee, it's sort of one of those things where when that happens, you always remember. I was at one of our production facilities, had just arrived there. It happened early in the morning. I was at a production facility, and it wasn't far from Green Bay. I was only in Minneapolis, thankfully. But I immediately called and got a rental car because I knew I'm not going to get back home on an airplane. And sort of my first call was back to our corporate office to say, where do we have people around the world, right? Because I just knew that it was going to be a challenge. We had people in India, Mexico, Texas, all over the place, and we needed to find somehow a way to get them. And that was early on. It was just a quick, sort of guess that, hey, things are going to be grounded for a while. But I was at a production facility.
It's actually kind of incredible that you had that. I mean, when you make those kind of calls and you're figuring out everything, any snags? Like everyone was all right?
Yeah, I mean, for sure everybody's all right because it's the beginning of what became a really big deal. Yeah. But early on, we sort of didn't know. And as it unfolded throughout the day, of course, we knew more. But the next couple of weeks were a bit of a lot of unknown for everybody.
So how did it all start? Where did Ron Dunford start his business life? First job that you ever had?
Well, first job I ever had was moving pipe in a sugar beet field, right? So I'm not sure that was the beginning of my business life, but it was sort of, I'll tell you the quick story on that. I did 8th grade, probably even early in that 7th grade, and I had a buddy who lived out, was a farmer, and said, hey, I've got a neighbor who's looking for someone who can move pipe. And so I said, okay, what's his name? He gave me the name. I got home that night, and I had no clue who the guy was. I couldn't remember a thing. So all I did was I took out the phone book, and I started just going through the phone book just to see if I would recognize a name. And finally I came to a name, and I think that's the name. And I'm sure it is. So I randomly called this guy and said, hey, I hear you're looking for someone to move pipe. He goes, not really, but I could use someone. And he turned out hiring me. And the next day at school, I went and told my buddy that so-and-so hired me to move pipe. He goes, who's he? That's not my neighbor. So it was this random guy that I picked out of a phone book. And that was my first job.
All right, that's awesome. Now, how much did you get paid?
Oh gosh, it was like 2 cents a pipe.
Yep. Yeah. They were hand lines.
Oh yeah, hand lines. Yeah, it was all balanced. You'd step and sink to your knee, as you tried to carry. It was easier in an alfalfa field, but sugar beets, potatoes were a little bit tougher.
Yeah, that's amazing. See, he knows. He's done it.
Yeah,
you act like you've done it too. You're like, yeah, I remember these days. I used to move beets. Yeah.
No, I love that. That's great. I like you more than some random guy. Was it your neighbor?
It worked out, right? It worked out.
So where did the business life start?
Well, I was going to school at Utah State, and I needed a job to put myself through school. I didn't have an athletic scholarship.
Yeah.
Then they didn't give scholarships to intramural guys. Did a lot of sports, but for some reason I wasn't getting paid to go there. And so I needed a job in the Smithfield, Utah, Cache Valley cheese plant. was hiring a nighttime janitor, sanitation people, and so I got a job 42 years ago as the nighttime sanitarian at the Smithfield, Utah Cache Valley cheese plant while I was going to school. So that was the beginning. Got a degree in geology.
Yeah.
Wanted to go, work the oil fields of Wyoming, where you know well.
No, I was reading kind of through your bio what I could find. I could see what you do now, and then I saw your degree, and it seemed like those didn't quite mix right.
Not so much.
No. So what? Let me think. I don't want to ask this. So all right. So you're working as a night sanitation. You're working in these. Did you start to see maybe a path there, or was it still just kind of a job to help you get through college at that point?
So I've always sort of gone all in everything that I did.
Okay.
And relatively quickly became the leader of the crew, the leader of the department. I didn't expect that dairy would be my career, but I expected I would be in a leadership role whatever career I happen to go into.
Yeah.
So in the early and mid 80s, the oil industry wasn't doing so well in the U.S.
Yeah.
And there weren't any jobs. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to stick around in the dairy industry for a couple of years. And but I was on a track of leadership, and sort of, quite honestly, didn't really care what it was. It could have been the oil industry.
Okay.
It could have been cheese. It could have been whatever widget it happened to be. I was sort of just raised to believe that if you're going to do something, do the best, and then be the leader at it, whatever that happens to be.
Yeah, well, where did that come from to be the leader of it? Because it resonates. Hey, I'm going to be the best at it. Whatever I do, those are my dad's words that go in my head all the time. I don't care what you do in life, as long as you do your best.
Sure.
At whatever it is. But where did the idea that I'm going to be a leader? I mean, I imagine, and just talking to you in the brief time, it's like, yeah, this guy's well spoken. He obviously has done this. He's been a leader of men. Like, where does that come from, this idea that I'm going to be a leader? I don't care. It doesn't matter what it is, but I can lead people. People will follow me.
Sure. So leadership is like any other. It's like basketball. Mm-hmm. It's something that you decide to do, and you like to do it, and you enjoy it, and then you just practice.
Yeah.
Right? You mentioned your dad. My dad, it was be the best you can be at anything you want to be. So that sort of rings in my head as well. But there was an and the and is, and also be a leader of whatever it is.
Yeah.
So go find your passion, but then don't just be the best, be the leader, because you will be able to influence others. And so my dad was a leader, and he was my hero. And so I just felt, well, that sounds good.
Yeah.
I'll be a leader. And so I started reading, early on in my life, books about personal development and leadership, and I mean, I loved reading anyway, but those are the books that I gravitated towards. And so I just practiced. I mean, I just practiced doing things that leaders do.
Well, good. Help me understand what we mean by practice and being a leader. Because look, practice for me to be the best at basketball I could be was I'm at the gym 500 shots a day, 20,000 a summer, like how do you practice being a good leader?
So you probably know this name, Kobe Bryant.
Oh yeah, I've heard of him. I've heard of that guy.
Might have heard of him before. I think one of his many quotes and comments is he wanted to be the best at basketball.
Yeah.
And so everything in his life was about being a better basketball player. Everything. I mean, he'll even repeat the word everything a few times. And his comment is that when you decide that, then the world becomes your library, and everything sort of manifests itself, right?
Yeah.
It's easy to think of it in terms of basketball because it is just going doing 500 shots, whatever it is. But it's no different than leadership. If you decide you want to be a leader, then the world becomes your library. And so there are people that you can talk to, and there are classes, and there are seminars, and there are books. You can read something, and you can say, hey, here's a leadership principle.
Right.
Let me go back to work and try that and practice that. And I actually did. I was a young plant manager, and I would practice leadership lessons that I would read or hear. Uh-huh. And sometimes I would say, wow, that didn't work. That may have worked for that guy, or person, but it didn't work for me, and so I didn't adopt that as a leadership practice. I put into practice those things that worked best for me, because leadership at the end of the day there's no absolute science of leadership.
Right.
Right? Leadership is very individual, and it's very much based on the circumstances. And so it's like a coach, right? A coach gets one group of players, and you're going to lead and coach this group this way based on their skill and their talent and what they need, what's looking out there on the horizon. Leadership is no different, right? It's here is where we're trying to accomplish. Here's the group of players, people that I have. Yeah. How do I lead them to become successful? So you practice.
Well, how do you do it? Like your principles? Because you think of Mark Zuckerberg, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, and you hear stories about the way they led, and a lot of it was through intimidation and fear, right? And like their employees feared them, they were intimidated by them. But when I'm around you and the time that we spend together, little time, it is encouragement, love, respect, and dedication to the company and to those employees to make sure that they are the best at what they want to be. So tell me about what your principles are in leadership for you.
Well, so I mean, I'll tell you what my principles are from, I'll say, a personal success standpoint, because they're really sort of merge over into leadership. Because early on, I mean, I was on this sort of study of what makes great teams great, what makes great coaches great, what makes great companies, great leaders, whatever. Yeah. And how do you sort of figure that out so I could, learn principles and put them into practice? And one of the challenges, and you mentioned a number of different leaders out there, you can interview 50 leaders and say, what are the success principles or leadership principles? And I guarantee you will get 50 different lists. They will not be exactly the same. Yeah. And so what you end up finding out is that if you try to then do everything that everybody's doing, it becomes overwhelming and very confusing. And so ultimately you determine what are those things that work best for you. For me, 5 really simple principles, 2-word phrases, if you will. And the first one is just dream big, right? And so this is a principle for me personally, but it's a principle that I lead by. And so I'm a believer in the power of a dream. Yeah. And dreaming big. And if you can't envision it, you're not going to accomplish it, right? And if it's not big enough that it scares you a little bit, but excites you a lot, right? If it's not big enough that if I told Jaycee, hey, here's what I want to do, and if Jaycee says, well, that's crazy, then okay, it's probably big enough, right? You want your friends to tell you you're crazy, right? So I'm I'm a big dreamer as a principal, and I lead that way. I want our organization to dream big. I want our organization to think of things we've never done before. My second principle is expect success. Right? At the end of the day, you can have all the dreams in the world, but you also have to have the mindset and a belief that you can accomplish what you say you're going to accomplish. And by the way, if you go out and accomplish it on the very first attempt, it wasn't big enough, right? So there's got to be failure along the way, or it wasn't big enough. Yeah. So, but there's this expectation that I'm going to go to work every day to win. Right? We don't show up to just be in the game. We show up to win. It's not on the sidelines. It's on the field of play. But an expectation, big expectation. The third thing is take action, the appropriate action, right? So many people, so here's the dream, here's an expectation, and then you sort of hope it happens. Or you take action that's not consistent with your dream, right? People will dream this really big dream. They'll do the exact same thing over and over and over again every day, which isn't going to get them any closer to their dream. All it's going to do is continue to repeat the past, right? Yeah. And so it's taking action that's aligned with the dream that you have and what your expectations are. The fourth principle is to do good. I'm sort of a believer that life is about service. Life is about making a difference, making an impact. And the more you want out of life, then probably the more you ought to give in life. The more you ought to serve other people. And so. Is that a business principle? Some would argue that you could stop after the first 3, right? Dream big, expect success, take action, start over again, dream big, expect success, take action. But I think do good is part of that. Right. And then the fifth one for me is have fun. And at the end of the day, I got to have fun. So how do I lead? I lead with that sort of mindset. I lead with a dream big, expect success, take action, do good, have fun. leadership principles that I teach, those are easy ones to sort of talk about.
Yeah.
It's helping paint a compelling vision, right? I mean, it's hard. So dreaming big is part of painting a compelling vision. This is where we need to go and where we want to go. And if you want people to change what they do, you have to change what they see. And so in order to change what they see, you have to be able to paint this vision that people can see in order to get them to act any differently than what they do. So that's a leadership principle that I use, right? It's once you paint the compelling vision, comes back to the take action is how do you get people to, so it's strategy. And they could talk for hours about the vision and strategy, but it's developing a strategy of then the steps that we have to take and where we have to go. And that, you have to influence and inspire. And, I don't want people to lead me because of my title, president and CEO. I want people to work alongside me in accomplishing where we're trying to go and be there. Colin Powell, actually, I'm just rambling here.
No, it's great. We're listening. I do have follow-up questions, but this is great. I'm glad it's recorded, so I can go back and take notes later. But yeah.
Former Scabby quarterback and Utah State football walk-on, Ted Stokes has established the #1 bankruptcy law firm in the state of Utah. Stokes' law playbook is helping individuals and businesses overcome tough financial situations. If you are facing garnishment, repossession, foreclosure, or just overwhelming debt, give Stokes Law a call at 435-213-4771 or visit their website at stokesbankruptcy.com. That's stokesbankruptcy.com. Stokes Law is a debt relief agency and provides guidance under the United States Bankruptcy Code.
So I'll tell you the quick on Colin Powell, and then I'll shut up and let you guys ask questions.
You're great. We're going to listen to us.
So, a reporter asked him one time, what's the greatest thing that you need for leadership? And without hesitation, without a second thought, he said trust. And he talked about how you need to get people to trust you because you are going to be taking your troops down the deepest valley, up the biggest hill, around, in darkness, and they need to be able to follow you, even if just out of curiosity. You want them to follow you because they trust you. And so, leadership is about trust. How do you get people to trust you? And there's a lot that goes into that. But.
No, that's amazing. I love the 5 principles. I like that you're able to spell them out and vividly. Of those 5 or in those steps, where do you see people failing the most often? Where do they come up short? Is it on the dream? Is it on the implementation? Where's do people fail the most?
Yeah, so I'm going to say in steps 1 and 2, the people generally don't dream big enough, right? I think most people put limits on themselves based on their history.
Yeah.
This is what I've done. This is who I am. And so therefore, my history sets my expectations of what I should expect in the future.
Yeah.
And or people will put whatever other self-imposed limitations on themselves. And so I try to, get people to recognize that your past isn't your future.
Yeah.
And so I would say that's the biggest one. People will dream big and they'll tell me their big dream and I'll go, man, that's not very big.
Yeah.
That's incremental.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about pushing beyond what you believe is possible. Yeah. And when I say that, I mean, you don't have to be the first person to climb Mount Everest or the first person to do whatever it happens to be, but it has to be big for you. So I'll say failure and the ability to dream big, number 1. But then number 2, I said the first 2 principles. It's expecting success and belief in yourself, right? Most people have doubts about their abilities, and it's less. Doubts kill more dreams than anything else will. Yeah. It's not the obstacles they're going to run into. It's not all the challenge. It's not all the hard work. It's the self-critic that stops most people from accomplishing their dream.
No, that's really good. And honestly, it's really fortuitous. I don't know why, but yesterday, as I was driving back from Salt Lake, and this weekend I went to a concert, and as I was driving, honestly, I just I've been thinking about what I'm working towards, where I'm working on, what I want to accomplish, and for whatever reason, I mean, the words you said had gone through my head and I asked myself, is my dream big enough? Those exact words. So the fact that you're saying you're talking, those are kind of your principles. And I'm still wondering, though, is my dream big enough? Is my vision big enough? So I love that.
Does it scare you? Your vision, your dream?
It did, but now
Does it excite you a lot?
it excites me a lot. And now that it's in motion and I can see things starting to fall into place, that's when I kind of thought, I don't know if the dream's big enough now. A month ago, yeah, I was like, phew, if I ever get there. And I'm not there, but I can see pieces starting to fall in place, and I'm kind of going, I might need to think bigger.
Yeah. Here's a let's say a visioning exercise that I've used for a long time in order to dream big. So really, particularly from an organizational perspective, but even a personal perspective, it's to literally put yourself 5 years into the future.
Yeah.
And imagine that it is now we'll use the year 2030, and write the headline news article of what Jaycee Carroll and his company or companies are doing.
Yeah.
5 years into the future. And the reason you do that is because so most people will start from the present and work their way forward. And they say, well, here I am today. This is what I need to do incrementally in order to get where I want to go. The problem is that when you work from the present forward, you take all of today's limitations, all of today's worries, all of today's concerns, and you sort of project them into the future.
Yeah.
Right? When you put yourself into the future, you can leave the present behind, and then you work yourself backwards. So dream crazy big 5 years from now, and then go, okay, well, if I'm going to do that in 2030, this is where I would need to be in 2029. This is where I would need to be in 2028. This is the things that I need to do. You can easily work yourself. And we had a presidential debate last night.
We did.
And it's interesting. You could ask a 20-year-old kid, go try this on campus sometime.
Yeah, right.
Do you think you could ever be the president of the United States?
Yeah.
Most kids are going to say, oh, no, I could never do that.
Right.
If you ask the question why, you're probably going to get, well, I don't have the financial means, I don't have the education, I don't have the family background, all of these reasons why that could never happen.
Yeah.
If you ask that same kid, you're now 50 years old, you're the president of the United States, what did you have to do to get there? They can say, well, gee, I would have had to have been a senator or governor by this age, and then I would have had to do this, and I would have had to do this. They can work themselves all the way back to today and go, wow, I guess I could be.
Yeah.
Right? And so when you project forward and work backwards, you can actually dream bigger than the opposite, if that makes sense.
No, I like that. I like that exercise. I think it's good. I think it's valuable. And I think it could really add vision and steps to it. I love that.
Jay, I want to flash back. Yeah, I want to be able to golf with Jaycee Carroll one day.
Dream bigger.
Say no.
That's not big enough.
Yeah.
Dream bigger.
Look, I want to flash back because you talked about dreaming bigger and having goals and shooting for the future. You're a plantation manager. How old were you?
When I became a plant manager, I was 28, 29.
And then what was the journey and when did you become CEO?
So at the time, the plant that we had, the Smithfield plant, was not part of Schreiber Foods. I worked there and did a number of different things and then was actually acquired eventually by Schreiber Foods. I'd worked my way into becoming the president and general manager of a smaller organization that was acquired by Schreiber and then moved to Green Bay. A lot of different roles, ran our global operations, ran our commercial side of our business, became the CEO 5.5 years ago. Actually retired for a period of time. So I retired in 2017.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
So you went
It turns out it was not a retirement, it was a sabbatical. So I had this 18-month sabbatical where I did a bunch of nonprofit work. And then the board of directors asked me to come back into this role. So I was the president of our U.S. business, and they came back, 18 months later, asked me to become the global CEO.
When you became the global CEO, did you feel like you were ready for that position with all the roles that you had served in previously before?
I felt I was ready for that position many years earlier. What I didn't know is what I really didn't know.
Okay.
Right? And so you always think you're ready for something. And then when you get there, you find out, this is a little bit different level of competition. This is about, use a sports analogy, right?
Yeah.
You're always ready, but then you find out, you you're playing in a little bit bigger league. I thought for sure I was ready along.
What were some of the first, where were your struggles the most as a CEO when you first started 5 years ago?
I don't know.
Or is it all just...
Yeah. So my struggles were many things beyond my control, so therefore I didn't freak out about them a lot. I'm not one who worries about things that I can't control. But not long after I became CEO, there was a thing called the global pandemic.
Yeah.
Unbelievable inflation, supply chain challenges. We had a cyber event that shut Schreiber Foods down globally. We've got 10,000 people around 40 locations around the world. Shut us down for 4 days. We had all kinds of events that were going on that were certainly a challenge.
Right. Yeah.
But
no, those cyber attacks, at one point I kind of thought this is just like TV stuff. This is like TV show stuff. But I've been able to hang out with some other people that run some pretty big companies, and they've had cyber attacks, and they'll tell me about it. And it's a real thing.
it's scary.
It's scary. And did you have things in place, processes in place to get through that, or did you have to learn it as you go how to get through like a cyber attack?
There's, like many crises, or I'll just say lessons in life, you rely on your experience, you rely on processes that you have in place, but very rarely is a crisis a textbook crisis.
Yeah.
Right? You know the principles that you need to apply, but you learn as you go.
Yeah.
Right? So as prepared as you are to have a global pandemic, as prepared as you are to have whatever happened, in our case, a cyber event as well.
Right.
You learn as you go.
All right. And as you were coming up and doing this, did you have anyone that mentored you? Anyone that you kind of looked up to? Anyone that kind of inspired you? Was there any leaders that you go, if I could be like that guy, if I could learn from that guy, like he's got it figured out?
Yeah. So I would say a lot of them, and not always people who were that I knew.
Yeah.
Right. So it could be in books, it could be in podcasts, it could be in a variety of different ways, but for sure. I mean, it comes back to the topic we were talking about earlier. The world becomes your library.
Yeah.
And so I've always listened and read. And so whether it's John Maxwell or Tom Peters back in the old days, or Dennis Waitley or Stephen Covey, and Simon Sinek's today, or Tom Bilyeu, there's a lot of there's a lot of examples and models that are out there.
Cool. That's neat. And I do like social media for a couple of things like that, where I'm able to follow people that teach you how to speak well, teach you how to speak properly, and how to present in a very clean way. There's motivational things. Kobe Bryant, after he retired, and he started to say a lot of really good things.
He did.
I think it was intentional. I think that is the way that he actually thought. And it's too bad that we have less of him now, obviously. But there's a lot of people out there I like to listen to, like to see. So I really like that. You're on the board of directors in the entrepreneurship program at Utah State. Is that right?
I am.
And so, what is your role there? What do you do with young entrepreneurs as you come into Utah State, or as you deal with young people? Why entrepreneurship?
Well, so I got involved with that program because of, I'll just say, this 18-month sabbatical that I talked about earlier. I ended up as the CEO of an organization called Mentors International. And Mentors International is a program that works with entrepreneurs in third world countries. So I traveled 250,000 miles around the world to Ghana, Nepal, the Philippines, and Honduras and Peru, and sort of all over.
Yeah.
There's a program at Utah State called the SEED program, and they send students, interns, to go spend a semester out in the field in one of the countries where we were operating. So I got involved with Utah State because of the SEED program, and that's how I got involved in the entrepreneur program. Okay. So the answer is it's teaching business principles and success principles and finance principles to entrepreneurs out there in the world, but also to young students.
Yeah.
Right? If you're gonna solve a lot of, I'll just say, today's challenges, I think entrepreneurship is the way to do that. Businesses,
Yes. No, and it's fun.
business acumen.
It's fun.
Yeah,
It's interesting.
it is.
There's a lot of things you can do, a lot of things you can figure out, a lot of opportunities to grow and stretch yourself. For whatever reason, I've never really had a big fear of jumping into things and trying to do it. What's maybe, if you had to sum down to the biggest obstacle for young entrepreneurs? Is it self-doubt? We talked about with leadership, doubt and things like that. Like, what's the biggest obstacle for an entrepreneur?
Taking the step,
Taking the step.
taking the leap.
The first step.
First step, right? I mean, they've another little analogy here, and I tried this experiment on myself, right? They've hooked up heart rate monitors to people who jump out of an airplane for the first time, just to sort of see what would happen.
Interesting.
And you put the backpack on,
Yeah.
you're on the ground, the chute on the ground, and your heart rate starts beating faster and faster. The plane takes off, the heart rate goes faster and faster, all the way till you're in the air, and it's beating like crazy. The minute you jump out of the plane, even before the chute has been pulled, your heart rate starts to go back down to normal.
Really?
And so it's this anticipation of the unknown. It's the anticipation of the fear. Once you take the step, it's never quite as scary as you thought it was going to be, right? And I'll just say that's a metaphor for life, right? So people get all worked up about, this is what I'm going to do, this is where I'm going to go, this is my business opportunity and idea, but it's actually taking that step. Once someone takes the step, then you can figure it out. Or they'll take a little tiny step, right? And so it's the leap. Maybe it's the leap instead of the step, right? But how do you get people to? So many good ideas out there. There are so many good ideas out there that never get implemented because no one will take the leap.
What's your motivation? I mean, obviously you run a business, you're a CEO, right? But there can be something, I mean, maybe to a small degree, it could be monotonous, right? I work for Utah State Athletics Radio, and I think it was, honestly, I think it was at the end of last season. I haven't told anybody this until now. But I actually got bored. I got bored of what I was doing, and I just wasn't happy with it. Because I was like, I'm calling games, and that's it. But there was no challenge for me anymore. And it bugged the world out of me. So when I went into this upcoming football season, and as a radio engineer, I was like, I got to find something new to challenge me in this job. Do you ever find any issue having motivation or just like, I don't know how long I can keep doing this? Or monotonous issues?
Yeah. So you're finding out here pretty quickly that I'm full of just little analogies and stories about our life.
Analogies and storytelling is a great way to
get a message across. Story of 3 bricklayers.
You heard this one?
Someone comes along and asks the first bricklayer what they're doing, and the bricklayer says, I'm just laying bricks. Asked the second bricklayer what he's doing. He said, I'm getting a paycheck. And asked the third one what he's doing. He stopped, looked around, and said, I'm building a beautiful cathedral. Right? So 3 people doing the exact same boring, monotonous, mundane task, but how they viewed what they were doing was completely different. And so whether it's someone who does the same boring task day after day for 30 years, if they're there to just lay bricks or they're there just to collect a paycheck, it can get boring and monotonous. If they're there to build a beautiful cathedral, then there's meaning to work. And so that's how I would sort of answer what your comment was.
It's great, yeah. Because you were inspirational like this in the podcast.
Hey,
you're all Jaycee.
Hey, me too. We're working on
That's amazing. I want to ask you about your hiring. So this is really cool. When they come over twice a year, Schreiber does. And they bring their employees from all around the world. And they spend an evening with us at Bridgewood Adventure Park. Patrick Bentley, who's here with us, he's our aerial course manager. He directs a program that's like a 3-hour program.
Yep.
And it hits on all their goals and their themes. And Patrick's incredible at it. He's so dang good at coming up with ways to hit their goals and help them think outside the box. It's amazing. But I got to meet your incredible employees. Katie, Cheryl, who's awesome. Ricardo. When you hire these people, what's your thought process in your mind of hiring the best people around you to make Schreiber's what it is today?
Yeah, you hire So skill sets become a given, right? You can learn skills, you can develop skills. It's hard to develop attitude, right? It's a culture in a athletic program, a culture in a company, right? You know what you want, and then you recruit for that or you hire for that. And so I'm not looking necessarily for the most skilled person if they have a bad attitude, right? So I'm hiring for spirit. I'm hiring for attitude. I'm hiring for someone who wants to be in the game, playing the game every day, not on the sidelines, cheering everybody on, right? I'm looking for someone who I'll tell you another story. So Terry Bowden, football coach for many years, 30-year head football coach, including Auburn at one point in time, mid-career. He told the story about when he was in college playing football, and he was really an undersized guy. He didn't look like a typical sort of football player. But he tells the story about he showed up every day, practiced hard every day, and eventually the coach said, "Hey, you're doing all the things you need to be doing. I'm going to put you as the front right guard on the kickoff receiving team."
Yeah.
And so if you're the front right guard on the kickoff receiving team, you're on the sort of the front line there. The opposing team kicks off, you go back until your receiver gets the ball, and then you have a lane, depending on where you're supposed to go, and you go block for your lane. He tells a story about his attitude was every time he went on the field to play, he was going to be the one that was going to make the block, that was going to spring the runner, that was going to score the touchdown, that was going to win the game. And he says every play, every time. And you only you're only guaranteed one play a game.
Yeah.
Either the beginning of the game or halftime. That's it. That's the only guarantee. But even if it was one play, he was going to be the one, and he would repeat it. I'm going to make the block. It's going to spring the runner, going to score the touchdown, and going to win the game. And I want someone at Schreiber Foods, regardless of what position they play, because everyone is equally important. In fact, that front right guard on the kickoff might have been the person who won the game. That might be. So it doesn't matter what your role is, whether you're the CEO or whether you're an hourly partner in one of our facilities, you have the ability to contribute. I want people who can contribute and who want to show up every day to be the one that makes the difference in the outcome of the game. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a grit, a competitiveness, a spirit, a culture, a caring, a passion.
I really like that. I do hang out. I coach a high school girls basketball.
Oh, do you? Nice.
Yeah. And one thing we try to talk about and try and instill them is that every role is important.
Yeah.
And great teams are made up of individuals performing their roles at an exceptional level.
Yep.
That's kind of the message we try and portray. And it's not easy to get people to buy into that. Everyone wants to be the person with the ball. Everyone wants to do, but those other pieces are so important. Gino Oriama, who I love listening to, women's coach at UConn.
Yep.
He talks about when he goes and recruits girls, and he's honest. He goes, if I'm there, I already know that they have basketball level.
Yep.
I'm watching what they're doing is they come out of a game,
Yep.
when they get a bad call, when they interact with their teammates, when they're in the bleachers waiting for the game, how they interact with people.
Yep.
And if they don't check my boxes and interact well in those situations, I don't want them.
Yep.
I don't want them. And I think that's something that's hard for people to reconcile when someone highly talented comes in and they have a skill set that is elite. We have to have this person. We can't do without them. But if they don't fit the culture, if they don't want to buy in, they're just as bad as someone that's unskilled as ourselves.
Now, it's the concept of, so I'll use football, 11 players. Do you want the best 11 football players, or do you want the 11 best?
Yeah.
Right? You don't want 12, 11 quarterbacks. The individually, those might be the best football players, but you're trying to pull together the 11 best for your team, not the best 11.
There's
right?
There's
a difference. And it's a sort of a nuancey difference, but you got to have the cultural fit and everything else that goes along with
I
that.
think Nick Saban once said, you can coach talent, but you can't coach behavior. Right? So you can coach kids. I mean, they might be the lowest talented person, but you can coach through that. You can't coach someone who has a bad attitude every single day at work or in the field. So, Bridgeland Adventure Park is closed for the 2024 summer, but that doesn't mean you can't start thinking about next summer. Bridgeland Adventure Park's already accepting reservations for group parties next year. Corporates, family groups, youth groups, you name it. Bring them all out and experience an adventure with us. Located at 722 South First Light Drive in Garden City, Utah, you can call at 435-946-2246 or visit the website at blap.rocks.
Oh, Lord. Yeah, it's extremely
Hey,
cool.
have you seen the movie The Boys in the Boat?
No, it's probably a black and white movie, isn't it? No.
It's about the Olympic
Rowers.
rower. It was they won gold medal, but it was amazing. They were a lot of people aren't. They were underclassmen. They weren't supposed to be there, but they kind of had this. They came together as a team and they worked together as a unit, and they had the goals that they were going for, and they ended up outshining and being number one in the world.
Really?
Hey, Boys in the Boat.
Boys in the Boat.
It's good. You should.
You and I should watch them together sometime. Okay, cool.
They won on the golf course.
Can I ask you? So we're just talking about these programs that you do at Bridgeland Adventure Park, and it's cool because like they really bring from people from like Spain, like Europe, right?
Yeah, all over.
all over the world.
Yeah.
It's nuts. And by the way, I'm supposed to ask you about Spanish ham because Jaycee and I were talking about how like you always talk about beef. You're like, oh yeah, I love beef. Yeah, where's the beef? Like you always talking.
Is that my voice?
Yeah, you should listen to the podcast. So, anyways, but these programs are awesome.
Wait, hold on. You skipped right over Spanish ham. What was your question on it?
Oh, is it good?
Yes. Jamón ibérico.
Do you? Well, you probably still.
It's cured ham. It's an Iberian breed.
Jason, tweet
They're
this, but-
acorn fed, free ranging.
Why do you raise your voice when you talk?
They call
like this?
it
You get mad.
pate
No, that's called being passionate. Passionate
He's
about it.
yelling
And
at
it's
me
good,
again.
Ajay.
Again.
You got to try it. You have to try this stuff. It's really
I
good.
will say this: you won't like it to begin with
Why?
because
I love spicy.
it's not spicy. It's cured. It's not cooked. It's cured. It dries for 8 months in salt, and then it hangs for another year or two. And the grease falls off in a little cup that sits underneath as it hangs from the
So
silk.
I'm sorry. Why wouldn't I like
And then the whole ham sits on the thing, and then you slice it off, hand cut, and you get a little tray, and then you eat it. Now, there's different kinds. There's pure blood Iberian, acorn fed. There's the half breed stuff, and it goes all down. It's a price list from here to here. And so I've got to get you this side, but I don't think you'll like this side. It's going to be too strong a flavor. So you can get the second. It's going to be acorn fed, a 50-50 cross. And you're not going to like it.
We have the CEO of
Because you haven't had that taste yet. If you eat it with me for a month, it'll be your favorite thing you've ever had in your life. When I go back to Spain, I go to the store every night. I get a pack of it with a chocolate bar and fresh squeezed orange juice, and I sit and eat it as I look out the window.
To be fair, Ajay, you asked the question. And by the way,
true.
I like 100% agree with JC. But every time I go to Spain, you have to have that. I mean, it is really good stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Bring some home next time you go to Spain.
Okay, well, I did last time. I took it to my office. I'll bring some to you. I'll bring some to you. I'll learn a lot about it. We're getting opening horizons.
I'll give you some Indian food.
Ajay had never seen the ocean until last year.
Yeah, I've been to the ocean
Good
before.
stuff.
Are you from India?
Yeah, from India.
Okay, we've got 3 plants in it.
I floated down the river in a basket, the Nile River, and then got here. But yeah, they totally missed the ocean, which was a bummer. I want to ask you about
Yes.
the programs that Patrick Bailey's been running,
Sure.
because I've always been curious what people get out of this. We run programs like 3 times a week throughout the summer. What do you, as a CEO of Schreiber's, what do you get out of those programs, and how do you apply it to your company and your employees?
Well, let me just sort of give you a high-level answer at first, which is that I think part of a leader's role, regardless of the level they are in the organization, is to teach leadership. And so 4 weeks of the year, I spend doing what I'm doing this week, which is being with 25 or 30 leaders from around the world in leadership development. And so that takes a fair amount of my time. And so I'm huge on developing talent and developing leaders. So we try all kinds of different programs. The ropes course, what do you call it?
Bridgeland Adventure Park.
Adventure Park, right? Patrick always talks about, when you can move your body. If I can get you to move your body, I can
your mind.
move your mind.
It's one of the best.
Right, and so there's a lot of, you learn a lot of different ways. Everybody learns something differently. There's people that will learn very well by being high on a rope or doing a group activity. Other people learn find best by opening a book and reading something. And so it's exposing people to different forms of education and learning. And that's a classic way to do it, is to get someone out of their comfort zone, get someone doing things that they necessarily wouldn't do on their own, and try to open up their minds and thoughts and ideas to new ways of thinking.
I think it's interesting because we'll have groups, like I said, all the time. And Schreiber's group's amazing to work with. Like, we love them. USU Huntsman group sent like 85 people. We love that group. And there's other groups where you feel like you had no reach, right? Like, there's groups where you feel like you had no reach into them, mentally, emotionally, or physically, in any way. And but when we were done with your group, I was like, man, that was a lot of fun. And Patrick said, yeah, it went great. And then in my mind, I said, I wonder what they thought. Like, what did they get out of it? When they get in the car and they go back, what are they going to talk about, the aspects of that program and how they learned? But I think how you brought that up, just individual, it's more of an individual thing than a company.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I'm not trying to force feed anybody.
No, by all means.
Right? It's the old take the horse to water, but you can't make them drink. What I want to do is I want to expose everybody to as much water as I can. Yeah. And at some point
there's so many analogies.
They're gonna drink the water, right? Yeah. Then my encouragement to everybody within our company, there's 10,000 of us around the world, is that you should do something every day to improve yourself. I mean, I don't care if it's physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, any of those 4 aspects of life. You should be doing something daily to improve in an area of your life. If we want to be a great company, then we have to be a group of great people. We won't be and can't be a great, sustainable, long-term, growing, healthy company if we're not made up of people who are trying to get better every single day. And so I'm not trying to make our company great, quite honestly. I'm trying to make our people great. And if I can do that, the result of that is our company will be great. So I can do things to get short-term results. Yeah, that's great. Or I can do things to make people better, and the company will be better for the long term. So it's exposing people to the adventure part, to ropes courses, to training of all kinds and forms, so that they can learn in their own way what makes them better.
Yeah, I really like that distinction, making great people rather than making the company great, making the people great. The other thing you mentioned was getting people out of their comfort zone. Amazing things happen when people get out of their comfort zone and really start being involved and trying to contribute, try to do something more. A very small example of that in my life that I saw was I was in a college class at Utah State, and I had football players, and I was in there, and a couple of other athletes. And for whatever reason, they had us doing like kind of fitness tests, but it was a class, so no one really cared. Like, hey, here's my vertical jump, here's this and this. And it just took one person to kind of get out of like the I'm too cool zone. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, everyone, like for example, the vertical jump. I jump up, and I watch all the football players go, and they're like, yeah, like I know they can jump a lot higher than that. And I just go up, and I jump as hard as I could, give my full effort, and I looked at him and go, see if you can beat that. Like they're just kind of challenging, like this is all you guys got. Just kind of start poking at them, and all of a sudden they start to open up, get out of their shell. And you start to see stuff that was amazing.
I kind of got you out of your shell, huh? You used to be really shy. Now you crack jokes.
Oh, my God.
You got a sense of humor that nobody knew you had. Like, we've done really good with you, Jaycee. We got you out of your comfort zone, man. And now you're outside your comfort zone.
Yeah. So, no, I like that. And a lot of times it just takes one person to kind of let their light shine for others to do the same thing. So, honestly, as I listen, holy cow, I almost want to apply for a job at Schreiber's.
We'll hire you. So Come on.
So send you to
we'll
Spain.
Send you to Spain.
Send me to
Spain.
Spanish. I'll mail you some ham back. Or maybe we can open the Schreiber Spanish ham division.
There you go.
I can help spear point that.
Yeah.
But
I'll be your Cheryl. I'll be your like amazing.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, what Cheryl Connolly's done, I can do for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. So that's really cool.
We just have a few minutes left. I want to ask you some questions outside of CEO Ron Dunford.
Sure.
Restaurant in Cache Valley that you would love to eat at, that you like to come and eat at when you get here.
Wow. Good question.
And
restaurant in Cache Valley that I love to eat
ones
at.
I know.
Well, I don't eat.
You know, 3 restaurants. So,
Mickey D's, great
so
beef.
all right,
Get the beef.
I like the Cache Valley, but what's the place you like to eat? What kind of food do you like to go get?
Cheesecake Factory.
Cool. Cheesecake Factory.
You know, but
At the big
so we have
We need to increase
With budget?
Your budget. Yeah.
Sorry, you want to
no. I'm a burger guy. Give me a good burger. You know, take me in and out. Take me to take me to a good burger place.
I've heard that I provide really good smash burgers. The beef I provide is the best.
Is this
burgers?
all right? Yeah.
I should have known. I should be more prepared. I should have brought you some.
Hey, so 8 out of every 10 cheeseburgers in the U.S. is our cheese.
So I love that.
That's amazing.
I'm eating Schreiber's cheese.
I like that.
Those are so good.
What do you do for fun? What?
Hobbies.
A ski freak. Love, passionate skier. Love to hike. I've been in the Himalayas a number of times. I've hiked up to base camp a few times. I've competed a few Ironman triathlons. So just activity. Bike, run, hike, spend time in the mountains.
You're an Aggie. $1 Million Arms over in Green Bay, Wisconsin. I know he's out for 4 to 6 weeks.
Yep.
That will be.
He'll be back.
Will be.
He'll be back.
But what's your thoughts on Jordan Love?
I was the happiest guy in Green Bay when he got drafted. Everybody,
only guy.
Now there were a few of us. You know, there were a few of us that are Aggies out there. That I thought it was a great move, and I think it still is. Obviously, he is out for a few weeks, but I think he's going to prove to be the 3rd Hall of Fame quarterback in a row.
Woo.
Yeah.
For
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I think
It's a hot take. I like it.
Do you know who the other 2 are?
Yeah, one retired like Ron did, went on a sabbatical, and then came back.
Is that Fabre? Is
Yeah,
that how you say it?
yeah, in Spain, that's how you say it. Yeah, Spain, that's how you say it.
Okay.
Yeah, and then Ron.
and then Aaron.
What was your sport? Like, I mean,
I played basketball, played football, skied, track. I mean, I was a weekend pretty good at just about everything, but not great at any one.
Ron, if you went golfing, would you let me go with you?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh, that's cool. The CEO of Schreiber said you go golfing with him.
It sounds like you've got something going on with Jaycee here. Jaycee, would you take the guy golfing?
I'm like, hey, can I come golfing? No, I'm going with Sam Merrill. Oh, cool. I can be a caddy. No, you no golf.
You say you can be a caddy, so I need to know what your caddy skills are. Do you know distances? Do you know?
We talked about this last week. I get
The
sprayed
answer's no.
water in
The
your
answer's
mouth. You go,
no.
oh,
What you're talking about is a water boy, not a
pat
caddy.
you on the butt and say, hey, go get this hole, you know?
Yeah.
I encourage you. Ron, what makes Schreiber's separate from everybody else as the CEO of the company? What makes Schreiber's different from everybody else that makes you so proud to be the CEO?
Simple. People, right? I mean, anybody can have all of the equipment, the products. Again, 10,000 of us around the world doing just a ton of stuff. You can get to know us by numbers, $7.5 billion company and just a lot of numbers, customers, all kinds of things. But at the end of the day, we have 10,000 unique stories, and it's the combination of those 10,000 stories that make us who we are. So what makes me proud, what's the magic sauce? Yeah. It's the people we hire. I know a lot of companies say that, but I talked about it earlier in the podcast. We're really selective about who we bring in and want to be. And so I do think we have a better population of employees, partners than others do. And I'm biased, I understand.
I like it. I like it.
You're supposed to be.
I would rather get that answer than, I don't know. Or, okay. So, yeah, tell us why you're good. Tell us what makes you unique. I like that. There's an honesty to it, a truthfulness to it, and I'd much rather people be very honest up front than try kind of shy or I'm okay at this. I'm okay. Look, I was great at making 3-pointers. There were very few people.
Couldn't play D, but you can make threes.
Oh my goodness, you're
Non-D3 guy.
the biggest hater. You're the biggest hater I
I'm just
got.
a big Sam Merrill fan, that's all. Ron, thank you so much for your time. You were so generous with it.
Of course.
Thank you for all you've done for educating us as well. I thought it was just wonderful. Wish you the best. Go Packers.
Yeah, thank you. Go Pack, go Aggies. I'm a big Aggie fan. So I hope they do well in whatever the sports. I know there's been a little bit of some challenges but there is with any organization. Schreiber Foods is not a perfect company. I talk like we're perfect, but I understand that we're not. We try better every day, and You know, I think that's the same with sports programs. And
Yeah.
Go Aggies, go Pack.
All right, well, for Ron Dunford, Jaycee Carroll, and Ajay Salveson, thanks for listening to Unequal.
Harry Nilton and her team at Gill Mortgage of Logan, Utah are committed to great customer service even after your loan closes. Karen and her team want you to experience knowledge, communication, and building that long-lasting business relationship. Make Gill Mortgage your trusted partner.
I think I'll be coming home. It's been such a long time. Oh, I think I might have made one too many a mistake. If you help me find my way, I promise I'll do the same one day.